Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on this webinar of RouteYou. I'm Pascal Brakman. It's 2 o'clock, and I welcome you on a broad introduction of RouteYou for beginners. So we will cover a lot of functionality, and a lot of them will be in some kind of depth, but there more information available via other webinars. But let me take you through the webinar of this afternoon. First of all, I'm Pascal Brakman, co-founder of RouteYou, and you will hear my colleague Rein Simon later on, who's responsible of our marketing and communication. Just a few practical questions and information. If you want to ask questions, your microphone is muted, so you have to use the chat function, and there you can post a question and we will follow up on those questions. We are watching and checking your questions and answer them immediately if possible, and Rein will do that when I'm talking and vice versa. You don't have to take notes because we are recording this webinar, and we will post it on our YouTube channel. We recommend you to have a look on our RouteYou channel and become members so you're updated about all the new features. What kind of features are we going to talk about this afternoon? Well, we're going to walk you through what we call the complete route cycle, which starts from the preparation phase of routes, which is partly searching for routes and also creating routes. That's the preparation phase. The second part is the usage of those routes. Then the third part is the post experience. Once you've recorded a route, how can you make use of that recorded route? For instance, post pictures, add pictures. And then the fourth part, which we will not cover that much this afternoon, is the analysis and improvement phase of all your routes. That's more for another webinar. So that's what we're going to cover this afternoon. So just let me walk you through the main topics which we're going to look at. First, Rein will show you how you can search and discover the great routes on the platform. In general or with specific types and characteristics. She will also explain you about the quality score and how you can select for length and difficulty and other parameters for the routes you are looking for. I will follow up with going into depth about how can you use a route if you find one, if you selected one or you created one, as well on how can you use it on smartphone, on GPS, or on paper. How can you make use of those routes? We will also briefly look into the possibility of printing maps, because that's still very much used for events or for personal use. That's also a possibility. Then the third part will be the creation of routes. How do you create a route? What are the basics about planning a route? And we will take that further, every step in more detail, how you can create different type of routes with different routing options which we have available. Rein will also show you how you can plan along specific routes and also add them practical points of interest such as hotels, but also thematic points of interest such as cycling slopes, cycling classics, but also information which you might be interested in, such as architecture, history, and stuff like that. The last part will be about reference routes. That's a very powerful tool. It's a bit more for the advanced user, but we will cover that at the end, how you can make use of reference routes and why that would be very useful for you. Let me just cover the options you have to use RouteYou. First of all, the question we frequently get is, can we use RouteYou for free? The answer is yes. The basic usage is free, so you can use worldwide, plan routes, use routes completely free. You get in the free account advertisement. That's one part of covering the costs, but that's how we also can keep it free for the users. We also have, for those users who want to make a step further or to take it a step further, a plus account, which is of course then ad-free. It also has some advanced usage and creation functionality, and that starts from 2.5 euro per month. You can also try it out, as Rein will show you how you can register. For clubs and small organizations, we have another plan, which is called the premium plan, which has a lot of functionality specifically for organizations which you wouldn't like to use as an individual user, but which is of very big interest for you if you're an organization, such as branding and exposure possibilities you don't have or you don't need in a Plus account for an individual. So those are the two main options for professional organizations. We also can take it a step further. If you would be interested in that as a professional organization, please contact us via info@routeyou.com and we will help you further. That's the agenda for this afternoon. Rein will start with how do you find search routes. I will follow up on using those routes you find and the different ways of using them. Rein will then cover the simple planning options, and then we go into the advanced planning options, such as what type of routing options do you have, what kind of maps can you use. Rein will follow up on the points of interests to be used along while you're planning. I'm also going to cover how you can upload a route if you find a GPX or you record a GPX. How can you upload it to RouteYou and make use of that route and edit that route on RouteYou. And the fourth part is the reference routes part, which we discussed about already. So that's the full agenda for this afternoon. So I'm going to quickly pass it on to Rein.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to share my screen. You can hear me?
I can hear you and I can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Rein, and I'm gonna do the first part. Before I get started with some practical usage of RouteYou, I would like to show you how to register. Pascal already told you a bit about the why. So at RouteYou, you can use the platform for free. You don't even have to register if you don't want to. Why should you register? Well, if you don't register, we can't keep track of your content. So if you have an account on RouteYou, even if it's a free one, you can keep track of the things you do. So you we can link that information to your account. For example, if you make a route or POIs, or if you want to keep track of your favorites, if you want to follow our newsletter or give reactions to routes, then we need to link this to a certain account. So we need to have you at least registered at RouteYou. How do you do that? Well, you have like the login button here on the top right of our website, or you can go via the main menu and also go to login. If you don't have a login yet, you can register here. It's quite straightforward. So you choose your account name, you enter your email address, choose a password, enter your preferred language. And then you can even insert your country and things like that. And for everybody, we offer a free RouteYou Plus trial for 1 month. So you can use our platform with all extra functionalities and have a full-blown RouteYou experience for 1 month at least. And then you can decide if you want to continue that or maybe go back to a free account. It's all costless. We don't even ask for your payment information or things like that. Why should you take a Plus account? I'm going to log in now with my Plus account. Well, there are several advantages. You can upgrade your account via this upgrade button. And then here you can see I'm already logged in with the Plus, but if you're logged in with a free account, this will say upgrade now. The most popular account type we have. What are the advantages? Well, there are many. The website first of all, the website is ad free, so that also makes the website a bit faster. You have access to Google Maps, so not only the Google Maps itself, but also the satellite images and Google Street View. You can use routes offline. You have more print options, and here you see there are even more things, so you can adjust your routes of others and all kinds of interesting functionalities. So if you want all that, then you should definitely take a RouteYou Plus account. As said before, the first month is for free, and then we only charge you 30 euros for a whole year. So that's the price of 2.5 euros a month, which is even less than a glass of beer. Okay, after all that, let's start with the more functionality part of this webinar. And I'm going to start to show you how you can go and search or even find a route that is suited for you. So the RouteFinder, there are several ways to get there. You can use this Discover button. You can go via the main menu, search for a route, or we have a shortcut menu here, search for a route, search for a route. Why do I show this to you? Well, I'm going to quickly change the appearance of my screen. Let's say you're on a mobile phone, then you will see you have the same access points, but it looks a little bit different. So again, here, the Discover button, the main menu, which always has the same layout, and then the shortcut button, which is now a bit smaller and in a little other place than before. So also here you can search for a route. So let's just go there and try to find the route that is suited for us. So the RouteFinder, once you activate it, you enter our search. I'm going to zoom out a bit and then go back. Yeah. Oh no, he's taking a lap like this, because if we're zoomed in on the wrong place and there seems to be a little bug in the map, but I think we are already aware of it. So this will be solved pretty soon. That doesn't change anything of the functionalities. Okay, let's try to find the route. How does it work? Well, once you enter the RouteFinder, you will see that we immediately display the filter pop-up. So this filter pop-up lets you filter and choose your options to downsize the possibilities that are served to you. So here, the first question we ask is, which kind of route are you looking for? In this case, let's say we are searching for a walking route. Then you can just click this route type, or you can choose for a cycle route or a motorcycle route or horse riding, boat route, and even more options here via the button with the 3 dots. You see, we have a lot of possibilities, but for today, let's say we choose a walking route. You see, in each category here, the main categories, you have like a more general collection of routes. If you enter walking routes, you will get all different types of walking routes, which are recreational, hiking, Nordic walking, running. But you can go a bit more specific and say, I only want to see recreational walking routes, for example. So that is how that works. Then here, the next thing you need to know is that to find the route, that the map part is also a filter. So that's very important to take or to keep in mind, because if you, for example, are looking for a route in Spain and you know what the name is, but you can't find it, then maybe it's because your map is zoomed in on Germany, for example. Well, we can't deliver the options for Spain if the map is zoomed in on Germany. So it's important to be zoomed out wide enough, or to zoom to the correct location. So let's say for today, we want to go and have a walk in London. So as soon as I start typing, the system tries to match your search term. So in this case, it would be London. So I can just click it here and then the map will zoom to London. Here you have other options. So you have like the darker color here, which isn't taken into account. So it's the lighter screen with the green side that is an indication of your search area. You can zoom out or zoom in, or it's the other way around, zoom in and zoom out, or you can even use this selection mode and then just put a box wherever you want to search. So let's zoom out a bit onto London. Okay, so now we have a search area on, we search for a walking route, and then here you can play with the length, but I think something is going wrong because I should have a lot more options. So I'm gonna start over and go again, search for a route, and see where things went wrong. So I asked for a walking route, and let's say now between 4 and 20 kilometers, zoomed in on London. So as you can see here, you can follow the results here in the show button. For now, we still have more than 1,000 possibilities that are offered to us, but as we are going to filter it down, the possibilities will be lesser. So here you could enter for a search term. For example, if you would say water, then the system will search in the titles and in the description of the routes for that term and try to match it with your search term. So that is how, or maybe you know the exact name of a route, then you can also enter it here. The author, well, maybe if you're already on RouteYou for a certain time, you have noticed that you come to routes that are from the same author. So then in that case, you can enter that specific author here. Like here you can see we have a lot of routes of Dromos. So I could choose to say, I only want to see routes of Dromos. And then again, the system will try to match it. But this could be a person or maybe an organization. That's up to you or up to what you are looking for. You can see that here also you can select to only see your own routes. The next thing is that you can enter a score, a minimum score that you want to have. So in this case, I could say I only want to have or want to see routes that have at least a score of 4 stars. That's something you can indicate here. Of course, the more stars a route has, the more likely it is that it will be a good route. If there are no stars, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad route. It's more that we can't say anything about it. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Another fun thing you can add here is you can also add some characteristics to your route. For example, you could say I only want to have loop-shaped routes, child-friendly routes. These are the 5 most popular options for characteristics, but you could also open the entire list and you can see that there are a lot more possibilities offered to you here. So that's really something fun. Next to the characteristics, we also have themes we want to offer you. For example, nature, but as we are in London, I don't expect to have a lot of nature, but still maybe via the parks and things like that. Or you can go for culture or something about cities, and here the same thing. You have a lot more options here. For example, crime and justice, literature. A lot of things here are possible. You can enter them and then we will try to match it. Here are some more filters, but these are really more, like the language or maybe the difficulty level. This could be interesting if, for example, you are looking for a long route and then you want to have like a lower difficulty level, or maybe you are looking for a shorter route, but with a higher difficulty level. Then here you can play with that. You can ask for routes that are only available in a certain language. And then this other stuff is a bit more specific, so we leave that for another time. So then you can say, for example, here it says I have 3 routes that match all of these things I have entered. So I can choose to show them. If you're here, then you can see this filter button, which indicates how many options, how many filter options that are active. I can reopen it, and then here I can clear 1 or more filters or clear them all at once. So that's how that works. If you have your selection, you see now I have 89 routes that meet my selection. I can now choose one. I just click it, or I can here click it on a map and then see this compact information about this route. I can click it here. You have an indication of where it's located, or you can just use the list. About the list, you can see that it's automatically sorted by relevance. For relevance, we take into account several things like how recent is the route, how many times is it recommended by other users, how is the route score, and things like that. So it's a kind of combination, but you can also choose to sort it by name or most viewed all time, by score. There are several possibilities here, length ascending, length descending. You see there are a lot of options. So then if you have come to a selection you want, you can click on a route and open it, and then you come to this more detailed page. And here we can tell you a lot more things. What do you find? What is it that you find here on the RouteYou? Well, on the RouteViewer, that's how we call this detailed page of a route. You have several information combined. So here you have the route itself. You can follow the route here. You can see that you have a height profile here, which you can toggle on or off. And then here on the left side, you have like an information column. So at first we give you the compact practical information. Who is the author? What is the route score? What is the length? The amount of ascent here, the average time we think you will need to do the route, and how we classify it. In this case, we think it's a medium on the level of difficulty. The first option here in the information column is the route information. Here you can see how many times the route is viewed, and then you have a short description by the author. We also offer some direct buttons which help you, for example, in this case, to easily start navigating the route on your smartphone, or maybe you want to print it directly, or if you're on another place, maybe you want to have the system give you a route to the starting point. Here also some extra information, which characteristics and themes are linked to this route. If you hover over them, you can see what they mean. Also the region is mentioned here. So next to the route information, we also have some statistics about the route, which could be interesting to have a look at. And then the next item are the places of interest. So you can see them here at the route itself on the map. You can click them and read the information that is linked here, or you can go to this information column part where they are indicated you get them in the order you will receive them, or you will encounter them on the route itself. So this will be the first point of interest you will get to know, and then this is the next one and the next one. So this is the complete list. You can click them on the map, or you can go to the list here. Comments, this is the next part, and the comments, you will see that the first comment is always a comment of RouteYou. If you make a route, we immediately give you a reaction, and that reaction contains a lot of interesting and again practical information. It's about the pavement percentage of your route, for example. If there's traffic load, in this case it's not that much, there's only 2 cars that are colored. Noise pollution, as we are in the city, there's a lot of noise here. Nature landscape, that is mediocre here, and of course as we are in London, it's mainly via urbanized area and things like that. But also here you can leave a comment yourself if you have an account on RouteYou for the author of the route, maybe to say that you appreciated the route, or if you had troubles, you can indicate them here as well. Then the next part is activities. Here you can indicate when you are planning to do the route, or when you have done it. This is, for example, also interesting if you're more like the sportive type and you want to keep track of your performances, then this is the place to do that. Then the last part we indicate here in this information column are interesting things nearby. So like, for example, other routes nearby, if you would be interested to go back to this region or this place, we offer you the other routes that are here. And then we also give an indication of the lodging nearby and other interesting service locations here. So that's all the information that's indicated here. What else? You can see if I make this part shift, then there's a certain bar here that sticks and it contains what we call the sticky buttons. This is a bar that gives you direct access to several possibilities to use the route or to share the route and things like that. I'm going to show you that you can share the route. You can see here it was already add to my favorites. I can do that, and or I can add the route here to my favorites. That's kind of sharing the route with yourself. So that is an interesting one to keep in mind. It's behind the share button, add to your favorites, and you get a message that it's successfully done. So how can you now find that route or your favorites? That's also interesting to know. Well, there are several ways to find them. You could go to your personal space here and say, go to my favorites. Here also in the shortcut menu, you can go to my favorites as well. And of course, here in the main menu, also you have your personal space here and you go to my favorites. Then the map will zoom out and give your favorites in one list. You can now zoom in. What happens actually, it's very simple. Also, if you go to the search directly, you can see there's a filter on here, my favorites, which is here at the end of the list. You can indicate it here. I want to see only my favorites, or I want to see all possible routes. So that is how that works. If you want to go back to the page, then we also have a nice option, which is the last viewed. So this gives me the opportunity to quickly go back to the Jack the Ripper route and here to go further investigating what else is possible. So as said, you can share the route here also on social media, and there are possibilities to adapt the route, which I indicated is a plus account privilege. So here, let's say if I would like to do this route, but I want to do it in the other direction, or if I want to start change the starting point, I can easily do that here. Or maybe if you found a route that is pretty long, you can split it in several parts here as well. So this is only offered from a plus account or higher. For the other options, I will now give the screen back, or the audience back, to Pascal, who will go further into this.
Okay, thanks very much. So I'm just going to share my screen. Can you confirm, Lorraine, that you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Yeah. In this second part, we're going to assume that we already selected a route and we want to make use of the route. So there are three main ways to use a route: on paper, on smartphone, and on GPS. So Rain showed you already that you can make a collection of your favorites. I've done that already. So I'm going to search for my favorite routes, which are a bit all over the world, but I'm going to take a specific one here in the area of Pickering. So that's one walking route, as you can see here. Rain showed you already, you've seen that you have pictures, that you have a description, but now I would like to make use of the route. And in this first case, I'm going to demonstrate that I want to print it. There are some buttons here which allows you to go straight to those features, but I'm going to use the sticky buttons at the bottom, and the printer indicates that I can print this route. I first will show you the overview, and since it's a short route, an overview might be enough in this case to be able to hike the route. So I'm just going to press the download button, which is a PDF. Because it's a PDF, I can as well print it or send it to friends or make use of it in another way. So what you get on the overview print is a QR code. So in case that you still want to go to a digital version to your smartphone, you can always scan the QR code. There's some basic information such as length and difficulty level. You also get a profile. You see the route and the points of interest on the route in this case. As you will agree, this is useful if it's a small area. If it's a very large area, it's a bit hard to see all the details. So let me take you to another example, the example of the road book. Therefore, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to go back to my favorites. I'm going to go take another route. This route is 117 kilometers. It's a motorbike route to of the area of Pickering to visit James Cook. And James Cook was living here, and there's still a museum, as you can see, of Captain Cook. Well, we would like to visit and make this tour. I would like to do it, in this case, again, as a print. In this case, I'm not going to take the overview. You can try it out. It also works, but you will agree with me that it's not detailed enough to see all the turns you have to take. Therefore, we have the road book. I'm going to select the road book, do the same thing. You will see that you have many options to play with the printer settings, but just use the default. And in most of the cases, that's good enough. Here's the road book. So what's the difference with an overview print? Well, we cut the whole road in different pieces. First of all, you also have the QR code here to go back to a digital version on your smartphone. Let's assume we're going to stick to the paper version. You start in Pickering, and you will see it's quite detailed. You can see relevant streets in the neighborhood. You can follow the route. If you drop from map 1, you have to go to map 2, and from map 2 you go to map 3, and here you see already that you can clearly see the street names to navigate. It's quite a lengthy document. In this case, I think it's 6-7 pages, which you have available. But on top of it, you also get the description of the roads, which might be very useful if you're stuck somewhere. So what's given here, let's take a detail. After 9.61 kilometers on map 4, you will see it make slight left turn, and it gives you also the street name you have to follow. So this comes automatically from the system. Rein will show you later on how you can create routes yourself, and you will get this kind of information for every route. Of course, unless if there are no street names available in certain areas, like on walking paths, we can't offer them or can't give them. We also indicate the points of interest you pass. These points of interest could be going from a tree to an abbey to the museum we have here. So you can clearly see after after which distance you will see or get to the museum. We also give you a rough indication of the timing that you should be there or you will be there, and this will tell you after how many meters you will get the next instruction. So that's the roadbook. It's an analog version. Of course, it's not as useful as a smartphone, but some people like to have like a backup, and that's very useful. Or you might also just want to work on paper. The third example I'm going to show you, I'm going to go to the north of France for this case. Let's go back to my favorites, which I prepared. And I think I have a nice one in this area. Yeah, here in the footsteps of Marie Curie. You probably all know Marie Curie. This is coming from a science magazine, and Marie Curie was active in the First World War in this area. You can read all about it. But what I would like to do is all the information I have here available of that document. I don't see that in the road book. It gives you an indication of the point of interest, but it doesn't give you all the information which is mentioned of the points of interest which you have here. If you want that also available on your print, you don't select overview or roadbook, but you select the guide. I'm just going to select the guide and I'm going to download it. For some people who are familiar with node points and node networks, you will also see that we have a node print I'm going to skip that one because it's an international audience we have today. And that's a specific solution for the Benelux. So here's my guide. I'm going to zoom out. So the first page is the title page. Then you see the complete route with the points of interest, a height profile. And here I have all this information available. So for instance, I can see that after a distance of 59.3 kilometers, I get to this point of interest where the famous Marie Curie was setting up. I think it was an X-ray station to see the injuries of the soldiers at that time. So that's the kind of information you can print also with a Plus account, and you can also make this yourself, as Rein will show you later on. So that's about using it on paper. As you notice, you will also have here a button which says download, and that download allows you many other things. First of all, it allows you to use the RouteYou app or the mobile website. The moment you click on it, in this case, we know that you're on a desktop, and we allow you to scan the QR code so you can immediately go to the smartphone, but I will show you that in a minute. Most of the people are very familiar with the GPX file. So that's every route is available as a GPX, but we also provide many versions of the route in many other formats fit for those specific devices. Most of these devices also can handle GPX. Most of the smartphone apps are using GPX and also the GPS systems. So have a look on the information how to do that. You can press the question mark. For instance, if you have a Garmin and you don't know how to upload it to a Garmin, press this question mark, and you get to our extended help. And this describes all the possibilities, what you should do to download it to a GPS device in this case. So for each item, you get this kind of question mark. So that's about the download. Let me go back to the smartphone solution. First of all, how do you get to the smartphone? Well, you saw it already in this download option. You had here, let me close it again. So here's the QR code. You just scan the QR code and your smartphone will open automatically, even if you didn't install the app. Let me show you what happens. I'm going to make a bit space because here on the left, on the right side, I simulated my mobile phone. So that's a bit more narrow. How do you get to RouteYou on your mobile phone? Well, let me say and make very clear that the best way to do it is first via Google. You can also add the URL, but I'm just going to type RouteYou and I'm going to go there via Google, and Google will show me many options from RouteYou. So I'm just I select an item and I get to my smartphone version. You will notice here the same structure we have on smartphone as on desktop. You will see the buttons are a bit more squeezed because we don't have so much space. So this search button is this search button, this planner route is this planner route, and these are my two buttons I have available on the right. You will notice that I already logged in. If you didn't, I would recommend you to log in. You can take a free account, so there's no cost for that because it gives you many advantages. For instance, one of them is your last viewed route. The moment you are logged in, as in my case, the system here, the desktop system, talks to my smartphone. And for instance, Rein showed you already the last viewed option. It's the system knows on my smartphone that I looked to the route in the footsteps of Marie Curie, so I can also select that route. If I would have scanned the QR code, which I can do via this button, here, if I scan the QR code or via the prints you had available, you also get to the same route. This system also allows me to do the same functionality, to get the same functionality as I get here. One of the search options was my routes near me. So I'm just going to select routes near me. And this is, for instance, my first cycling route. So it also allows me here to search. So you can scan a QR code, but you can also, of course, search on your smartphone. I'm just taking this example because here I have also these sticky buttons. This system now knows that if I press navigate, I'm still in the browser, by the way. So if I press navigate, the system tells me, would you like to record your route you're going to follow or not follow? You can even share your position with others. Of course, that's a very big privacy issue too. So you have to do that active. I'm just going to skip that one and I press start. So the system will ask you to enable the full screen. I would recommend you to do that on your smartphone. I'm not going to do it for the moment because otherwise it will take my complete screen. So now the system tells me you have to go straight on into the Duiligstraat. If I will reach the corner, first of all, the map will turn in the direction I'm navigating because it follows my bearing. And it will tell me just a few hundred meters before that I have to turn left here, in this case on the Isabellastraat, or the street which you will have available. So those instructions you will get spoken. And of course, the map, as you see already, it moves along and I can navigate. The system tells me also I still have to do 28 kilometers. I can click on the statistics and then see what's my arrival time, what's my number of meters I still have to climb, and so on. So that's what you can do. The moment you press stop, the system will stop and automatically the route you have been recording will also be available in your account, but that's for a next step. So this is how you do the three things. You can print, you can download to GPS system, or you can navigate on smartphone. If you're on your smartphone or you share it to other people, be aware that also via the smartphone, you can still go and say, well, look, I don't want to make use of the RouteYou website or app. I'm going to use one of those others and download the GPX. That's also possible. And I was talking as well about the mobile website, which I'm here, but be aware that you can also install the RouteYou app, in this case, via this button, install the RouteYou app. This is PWA technology. That's some technical information for the ones who are interested. So the website and the app are built in that technology. There's one disadvantage for the Apple users. For the Apple users, you can install the app in the way I showed you here via this button. So you go in Safari, you Google RouteYou and you get here and you press install the RouteYou app and it will take you further. You can't install it via the App Store because Apple still doesn't allow PWA apps on their App Store. Google does. So in Google, you will find also the RouteYou app. In Apple, for Apple, you have to install it this way because that's a frequent question we get. So that brings us to the next part. What if I want to plan my own route and how can I do that? And that's something Rien will tell you about.
Yes, I'm gonna share my screen. Yes. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. Okay, the next part is about planning a route. The same thing as for finding a route, several ways to go to the route planner via the button, via the shortcut menu, plan a route, create a route, or via the main menu, plan a route, and then create a route. This brings us to the route planner. Several options here. First of all, you have the map on your right. The map also has some interesting buttons and then some interesting map layers, which Pascal will come back to later on. And then on the left, you have like the plan module, where you can make choices, which also will manipulate or guide you towards what you really want to do while planning a route. About those options, so the first option we present to you is the option to choose to make a route from A to B or choose to make a round trip. So I will start with the round trip option. This is actually you asking the system to make you a suggestion loop. So let's go, for example, let's say, and to indicate that RouteYou is international, I can go to, for example, Pittsburgh. Here, and I think it's probably this one. Let's zoom in here. No, it was the other one on the other side that I wanted to go to. Sorry for that. So there's also Pittsburgh here, as I remember. Okay, that doesn't really matter where to go. It's a bit the same. Let's try it again and choose another one. I don't know, I zoomed in last time, so I'm just gonna go here. It doesn't really matter where we go. So Pittsburgh, let's go to California. That seems like a nice place to go. So if you want to create a round trip here, the first choice you make is the route type. To know what that does, it's also interesting to know the routing types. So we have a long list of routing types, but it's important to know that once you make a choice here, the route type list is a lot shorter. So we help you guide to the routing types that are interesting to the type you have chosen. So here I chose hiking, then I only get the option hiking nicest. For cycle route, we still have several options like recreational cycling routes, race cycling, mountain bike and gravel bike. So if I choose a more specific option here, then again, I get a more specific list, and now I only have 2 options. So this is a way for us helping you to have or to make the right choices. So here we're in Pittsburgh, California, I think. And here I want to ask the system to make a suggestion route for me. So I can just go here and just click this point. And then the system will make a loop for me as I have requested. So here I can play with the length of the route. It can go in several directions as well, depending on your length. And then this is also an interesting feature here that you can choose the direction which the system goes planning a route for you. So if I would indicate I want to go in this direction, then the system will try to plan a route that matches my kilometers I asked for in that direction, or I could go in another direction, and then again it will try to do the same thing. As there's water here, it's a bit more difficult, but you get an indication of how this is working. You can still, if you have let the system point it out a route for you or make you suggestion, you can still adjust it by pulling the route and trying to adjust it to other places or other parts of roads you can see on the map. So that is very quickly how you can plan a loop. Let me take you to Bruges for another option. So I can here also say I want to clear my route. I'm going to clear the route. I can confirm this, and then I can do the same thing. I don't want to go to Pittsburgh. I now want to go to, for example, Bruges, and then let's just make the system go there. I click the location and the map zooms in to Bruges. Here is the same thing everywhere on the map. I can also choose here to loop out, to let the system make a loop or a round trip for me. And the same thing, I can do it in several directions. I can adjust it here, several lengths. It's a fun thing to play with. What I wanted to show you here, because now I chose recreational cycling nicest, as we are now in the Benelux, and Pascal mentioned before, we also have other routings that are interesting. I just wanted to show you the node-to-node cycling option here as well. If I adjust the route here, you will see that as you choose for a different routing type, the route itself or the suggestion that is made by the system will also be adjusted. Pascal will come back to the several routing options later on, but as you can see now, it's matched with the node network here. I can again drag and drop this route, but it will always, as I asked for a node-to-node cycling option, it will always try to match that network. So that's how the round trip option works. Here again, you can click on the map or drag and drop, or you can also, for example, say I want to add an address here in between. You can also do that. Let's say if I want to adjust it here, I could say I want to go to Astridlaan 400, as I know it's a point there, and I can try to match it. That's only possible in this case if the node network also goes via that route. So if you want to start over again, you can here also clear the route in one movement. All points will delete it. Yes, that's okay. Or you can just go back, plan a route, create a route, and start over again. So let's say we have now planned the route via the round trip option. The other option is to plan a route from A to B. Here again, it's the same thing. You can have the complete list of routing options, or you can narrow it down by making a selection in the route type. Here now you can see if I choose hiking, I have more options than I had in the round trip option. Why is that? Because, for example, you now here also see hiking shortest. We don't offer the shortest options in the round trip option, because if you ask the system to make you a suggestion by the shortest way, well, then it will say that you should stay at home or you should stay at the location you want to start from, because that's the shortest option. So that is why we don't offer it in the round trip possibilities here. You have some others here, but as I said before, Pascal will go into this later on. Let's say, let's go now, for example, let's go to France. Here we have Boulogne-sur-Mer, which is a very nice area to go hiking. Let's say I'm over there for a weekend. I want to plan or map out a hiking route, and I'm stationed here in a hotel that is located here. So this would be my starting address. Again, if I click the map, it indicates the address, or I can fill in the address myself, or I could ask to start from the position I'm at that moment. So that are also several options. Now, let's say I want to take the shortest hiking option towards the coast here. Let's say here, let's go to the coastline. So now it's mapped out the shortest walking distance between those 2 points. I could now ask if I want to walk towards, for example, Wimereux. I can say I want to do that via hiking nicest. Then I can choose to change the routing. You will see that the system now gives me a pop-up, and it asks, do you want to apply this routing to the complete route, which would mean that I would adjust the first part of my route that I already mapped out and change it to this other routing. I don't want to do that. I want to keep my shortest route towards the coastline. So I don't want to change the full route. I only want to apply this routing option to my next modification. So that is what I'm going to click. And now I can say, bring me here via this rotation, for example, to Les Jardins de l'Abbaye Saint-Jean. So I can just click it here, and then it will map out. And of course, here it will send me along the coastline towards this park here in Wimereux. Asking or planning a route from A to B doesn't necessarily mean that you aren't able to plan or map out a round trip. That's still an option, and I will show you how. Here, for example, I can return. I can say I'm going to go via hiking nicest via this way all the way back to Wimereux, to Boulogne-sur-Mer. And then we also have interesting options, like if I'm not happy with this point I clicked, I can go back, I can do the undo button, and I can choose another option. For example, go via this way here, and again, undo, redo. These are the buttons on the map, but you can also access them here via undo or redo. I can even directly ask the system now to return to my starting point. And as such, I also am able to make a round trip via planning from A to B. The big difference between those two is that in the first option, you ask the system to map out a suggestion route just for you based on the things you indicated. In the second option, you make more specific decisions. You add more specific points via which you want to map out your route. Let's say that I'm happy with the route I mapped out. It's the same for the route tip. The next phase would be that you want to save this route. It's easy to do so. If you click the save button, another pop-up appears. Here you can indicate some basic information, like in which language are you going to communicate about this route. In this case, that would be English. What would be the name? This could be walking routes from Boulogne-sur-Mer towards Wimmera, for example. Like this, or you can make it even more interesting. You can indicate which route type that is suitable for this route. That will be walking route, or in this case, I would even go a bit further and say it's a recreational walking route. It's important to go as specific as possible, because as I said in the first part about finding a route, there's like more general collection of routes, which is in the walking route, and that will indicate recreational route, hiking route, Nordic walking routes. In each option, if I indicate a recreational walking route, it will appear. But if I indicate a walking route and people choose to look for a recreational walking route, then mine wouldn't. So go as specific as possible. That's important if you want your route to be found as good as it can be. So recreational walking route in this case. I can choose to keep my route still a bit more private, work on it a bit more after I saved it, or I can choose to immediately make it public. And here I could add an interesting description about my route to give the people that found my route an indication of what they can expect of the route. In this case, for example, say something about the fact that it's along the coastline, what you will encounter on the way, things like that. You can indicate here in an interesting description. And then it's as easy as save the route, and then the system will save this route under your account. So here you can see I'm the author of this route. And what's important to know that if you make a route on RouteYou and you refresh after a few seconds, then you will see that RouteYou will add points of interest to your route. So in this case, it's a selection of several different types of points of interest. You can, if you have a Plus account, as I mentioned before, you can add places of interest or remove places of interest. I will come back to that later on. As I'm now the author of the route, you can see that there are a lot more edit options here mentioned. I can bring the route back to the route planner. I have also the same possibilities I had when I found another route. I can change the direction of the route, change the starting point, split it up again, go back to the basic data, add a translation and things like that. As I'm the author of the route, I can change all those things to make the route better, for example. Here, of the other things you can see is the same as we have presented before. You have the practical information, all route information, the places of interest, statistics, and all the options to use a route, as Pascal has explained to you before. So this was in a nutshell and very quickly how you can simply plan a route from A to B, or you can let the system make a round trip just for you based on your options you indicated in the planner. So Pascal, to you for the next part.
Thank you. If you can just confirm you see my screen.
Yes.
Yes, in this part about the route planner, we will go into a bit more details about the routing options and the map options you have and why you should or can use them. Again, we go to planner route, and I'm going to generally use the route planner with create a route. So as Reen explained you already, here's the map area, and I would like to go back to Pickering. The easiest way is that I just type in Pickering. And as you noticed, there are very many place names which are double. So I'm going to explicitly say Pickering, England, and select the area. And then you get to the Pickering in this case, which I would like to use, which is south of the North York Moors National Park, which is a great area to walk. So in this case, I could select cycling, walking, as Reen showed you already. I'm going to select walking. And in this case, I'm going to select the shortest to begin with. So this will give me between every point 2 parts. So I'm going to zoom in more in the area of Pickering. So I'm going to plan my walk in the village of Pickering in the first place. I'm to add something extra. I'm going to show you here that I already used the search area. I'm also going to use one of the map layers. So one of the map layers which we have available is the topo map information of Ordnance Survey in this case. It gives me some more interesting details. I'm going to close it, and you will see how many details this map has. It has every single house mapped on it, so you can make use of that. As I said, I can click on the map. If I click 2 points, it gives me now the shortest path between point A and B, B and C, C and D, and so on. And I go back to my original starting point. The easiest way to close it is to use the pencil and use the function return to starting point, and then you have a nice closed route. You will see maybe a few weird things, but they're not necessarily weird. You will see what we call stubbles. So the system goes to this place and goes back, goes to this place and goes back. We allow you to do so because it might be there's a museum here and you want to visit it. Some people don't want it. The only thing you have to do is drag to a via point and it's solved. So as you notice, you can always take a point and drag it and drop it, and then the system will adapt accordingly. How does it adapt? Well, every time it takes the routing you selected here, so this is the shortest, it selects the routing between this point and this point. If I move this point, it will select the shortest between this and this and this and this point. So that's the principle which you have to understand. Let me show you a case where the shortest might not be so useful. So I can save the route. Reen showed you that already. So I'm going to start again. So now I've got my first route. Let me show you where it's more useful to select the nicest. I'm going to create a route again. Let's go back to Pickering. And here we are. What I would like to do now is I want to make a walking route from Pickering to Rosedale Abbey. I'm not going to select nicest, which I should, but I just want to demonstrate what's the difference between the two. So I'm going to select shortest. I'm going to go from Pickering to Rosedale Abbey. I also could indicate an address here. So you can add a destination, add addresses instead of clicking on the map. So you just have to try it out. That works both ways. What happens now? Well, we selected the shortest and you get this type of results. Let me select a satellite image, or a Google map could also work, because Google Maps and the Google satellite imagery also has this fellow here, which is Google Street View. You can have a look there, and then you see this is the route I'm walking on. It's not too bad, but it's not the greatest hiking route you would like to have in this case. So to solve that, what we added is, instead of the shortest, also the nicest. So have a look when I select now nicest. The system asks me, would you like to modify your routes for the next modification or the full route? So I'm going to select the full route. You see a complete different solution, because now we say, well, we prefer as RouteYou this route if you want the nicest walking route. So why is that? Well, let me zoom into that again here. Let's have a path here, and you will see that what we prefer is much more smaller roads, narrow nodes. If possible, we will take roads which are, or paths which are unpaved and which are, in this case, car-free. That's the parts which we will prefer. Well, it will be a small detour. We don't do too many detours, about 1.4 max. To be able to go from A to B to your destination. You don't want to go 50 miles if the shortest path is, for instance, 20 miles. So that's the balance we keep into account. Still, if you disagree with RouteYou, it's no problem, of course. You can click on the route, which I'm going to do here, and I can indicate I would like to go via this point. And I can keep on dragging and forcing it. And you see, we don't like that main route here. So that's why we keep on going back towards that nicer path. That's what's going on here. So if you're not aware about the shortest or the nicest, people get a bit puzzled. Why is he sending me around? Well, that's the reason, because we select here nicest. If you want to have more control, select the shortest, and then you will be able to adapt much more easier the shortest path between the 2 points every time, and that will make more logical sense for your planning, but not necessarily give you a nicer path. So that's the principle of the nicest and the shortest. So we keep track of the nicest on the basis of the characteristics of the route, the path, but also the surroundings. So if you're walking into a nature area or in an industrial area, that will be a different qualification. And we also take into account experts which are creating routes, and we also take into account the community. So those are the 4 main basics which we keep into account to provide you the nicest route. Whatever you want to do, you can always plan the route you want, but if you don't know the area, we would recommend you to use nicest. Same story for cycling. Here we have a difference between road bikes and mountain bikes. Road bikes, of course, we want paved routes. For mountain bikes, we also provide unpaved ones. Same story for motorcycles. If you want a touring motorcycle, you can also adapt it, and we of course will take routes where you are allowed and you can drive your motorcycle. And for each of the routings or the modi we have, you can select a different type of routing option which is available. So that's about the routing options. So play around with them. And what we also would like to stress more is that you can play around here with the basic maps. So you can make use of OpenStreetMap depending on the type you set here. For instance, I'm going to select walking routes. I'm going to now see that I have different maps available. In this case, you selected walking. We also give you an indication about the open walk map, which is a great map, which it already indicates great paths you can take, and it allows you to digitize along those paths, and you can follow those paths if you like to. But you can also deviate from them, as you see here. Here we are deviating. I can enforce it to follow it. So it allows you to create the map or the route you like based on that map information. What's also available, you can have some networks like long distance networks, which are available. So these are long distance paths, which are really recommended. But we also have, for instance, road properties, which if you go into detail, it gives you an indication, and I see we don't have them here. Where's my... Yeah, I don't have them here, but I have them available in other countries where you get a clear indication of the roadmap conditions. Here, I know for sure that we have them. Let me show you here. So these are the road properties, and it gives you an indication if it's paved, unpaved, in what condition. So these are the icons and the legend which is used here. If you're not aware of that legend, which would be the case in most cases, I think, you can click on this question mark, and then you get back to that help thing, the help pages we have, and here you get the legend for each of the maps which are available here if they're not clear. About routes and places of interest, that's something Rein will explain about in the coming part. So Rein, over to you.
Yes, somebody just asked a question. Maybe you can answer it in the meanwhile. I will share my screen.
Yes.
And then share. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. Okay, the next part is also a bit more about the more advanced options to plan a route on RouteYou. And in this case, it's about planning routes with points of interest. Okay, there are several options to go about if it's concerning points of interest. Let's go to the route planner. And let's say I want to plan a route. Let's go to Ghent, which is my hometown. Let's say here I want to map out a round trip from Ghent recreational cycle route. Let's start here in the city center, and then oh no, don't want a round trip. I'm going to clear my route, confirm, and go back. And let's say I want to map it out a bit more specific. I want to start here in the center. I want to go via this park and then go here, and then maybe go all the way here, let's say about here, and then go back to the city center and complete my route. So in this case, I have quickly mapped out the route. If I now save the route, I'm just going to leave these options open. I have just indicated how you can adjust the name and the description and things like that. I can now save the route. And then if I save the route, I have shown you before that if you refresh your page after a few seconds, then the system will automatically add points of interest to that route. I can now manipulate those points of interest. I can go to the edit button. And then I can, for example, ask, okay, this selection you added to my route, I want to remove all of them at once. That's really easy, just remove places of interest. And then here I can confirm my requests. The system will now remove all those places of interest. But what I can do now is I can kind of rebuild the set of points of interest that are linked to my route by gradually adding new points of interest. How do I do that? Well, with a Plus account, you can here go to add places of interest. Then a new type of pop-up will appear. And this also has some questions for you. It says I can replace the current places of interest. I don't need to do that because there are no places of interest linked to my route now, but this is something to be aware of because it's by standard checked on. So I can clear this, and then I can say I want to add specific points of interest to my route, let's say to a maximum of 30. My places of interest, I will show later on that you can add them yourself. So only yours or yours and the best of others. Here you can indicate the distance to your routes, which you want to take in account, like a kind of buffer. You can keep it to 100 meters, or you can go to 300 meters. If you're a cyclist, you could maybe deviate towards a kilometer or 3 kilometers. It kind of depends also on your route type, how far you want to deviate from your route to visit something. Here you can add another type of filter, which is like the characteristics or the themes. So let's start with characteristics. I could say here, add child-friendly points of interest to my route, because I'm going to take my family and we're going to do that cycle route. And now I want to have points of interest that are interesting to my kids as well. So now the system will look into the database and try to find points of interest or places of interest that are child-friendly. Like here we have breeze ballooning, and then here you have like a cool tunnel that kids can use. There's a boardbos, that's something specific for this site. So a lot of fun things that you will encounter that are interesting to your kids. But I can add even more places of interest. So I go back to this functionality, the same thing. I don't want to replace the current ones. I want to keep them. I want to add places of interest. Let's say I now want to add places of interest of a specific theme, which could be, as I'm going through several nature parks, I could add places of interest that has something to do with nature, I now can confirm. And again, it will try to add places of interest that are matching with that option. Here I can still now, I can go to the list and go through them, and then I can here link or unlink the options I don't like. I can unlink here, but you can do it via the map as well. If I'm not interested in this eating or drinking option, I can just simply click it here and then unlink it, and as such build my own set of points of interest that match more my interests or my needs for that route. So that's the first option. So you just make a route and then points of interest are added afterwards. Let's now go to the route planner and create a route, and then I'm going to show you another option, which is that you can plan via points of interest. So Pascal has gone through all the map layers here with you, and there are some specific options here, and one of them is places of interest. You will see that once I click it here, there's also a kind of filter button here to the right. If I click it, then the system says, be aware, you're now going in the left panel of your window. You will see that here another window will open, and here I can filter to several points of interest. I'm going to zoom out. It's still that same bug that we are going to fix really quickly soon enough. Let's say that I want to go to Berlin. I can just easily zoom in here. I don't need to use the locator. Let's say we go to Berlin and I want to map out a city trip there. I'm arriving here at Friedrichstraße. There's a train station here, and this will be the starting point of my route. But now I activated the layer with the places of interest, and you can see selection here. We only show a few places of interest. As I zoom in or out, you will see that they change. Why do we only show a selection? That has to do with performances. If we would show all the places of interest that are available here, then maybe no map would be visible anymore. So that's why we kind of give the best, the ones with the best rates first. And if you zoom in, you get the other options. But I activated the filter options, and here are the filter options for those places of interest. I could say, for example, I want to have an indication of lodging. So I can start typing, or maybe more specific, B&B. And then it will show up the B&Bs or hotels. Apparently, there are not a lot of B&Bs here. Hotel, I would imagine there are hotels here. Voila, there they are. I can now say, okay, I want to route to my hotel, which could be this one, for example, or this one. If I want to map out between those 2 points, you can see I can click this point of interest, and I can have, I have 2 options. I can plan via this point of interest, and I can add it to a route. So I could say I want to plan via, which will add this point as a via point to my route. I will show it to you, plan via this route. So now if I go back to my routing options, it shows I had indicated routing hiking nicest. I could have indicated hiking shortest. That doesn't matter. I want a walking route, so I'm going to select those options. I could choose hiking nicest, shortest, and those other ones. So now I have a route to this place where I'm going to stay, which is interesting from the train station. But now I want to map out a real route through the city. I have dropped my luggage here, and I want to map out a route. Let's say I go back to the filter. I just click the filter option here, and now I can indicate, I can clear this out and select another type of points of interest. If you don't make a selection, it will just show all of them, which is also an option. Or you could say, I'm interested in buildings, maybe more specific, voila, historical buildings. And then the system will show you the historical buildings. Here you have other filter options. You can indicate the score, characteristics. As I have shown before, it's a bit of the same thing as when you were searching for a route. You can add all kinds of filter here, and they are indicated on the top of the page where you can remove them as well. Let's say, okay, I want to now go on mapping my route. You go back to the route planner here by clicking this sticky button, and then you can see if everything is still in order here. So now I want to plan via this place of interest. As I said before, I can plan via this place of interest and I can add it to my route. I will do both and I will show you the difference later on. It seems like the route is now going via this way and I want to continue. So maybe I want to drag and drop and go via this way, which makes more sense. Now I can say plan via this point of interest and then plan via this point of interest. As you can see, I can even drag and drop and continue planning my route through Berlin via these historical buildings and just all the way around. Maybe I want to go back. Let's say I want to go via this one first, plan, add it to the route, where I will show you later on what that means via this one. And then I can say, as I have shown before, return to my starting points. I have now made a complete round trip via specific historical buildings throughout Berlin, which matches my interest. What I can do now, if I go back to the layer, is I can reopen those filter options. I can clear them out. And as you can see now, other places of interest appear along my route. Planning via a certain point of interest means that you want the routing to take it into account as a via point. If you add a point of interest to your route, then that means that you add the information of that point of interest to your route. So if I save the route later on, that information will be available and attached to my route. For those buildings that I didn't add to my route, that information will not be available in my points of interest or places of interest list. If I have mapped out my route and I now want to see if there are other interesting places of interest I will encounter along the route, I can just clear the filters so that there's a bigger selection available here, and then I just can click them and say I want to add this information to my route. I want to add the information of this church to my route. Even though I didn't plan exactly via this point, I can still say I want to add this information to my route. You can zoom in and just keep on going in the same way. I want to add this to my route. I think it's clear how this is working. Now, if I'm going to save my route, so I can use save button on the map or go back to the route planning module and say save the routes. Then this is my walking route through Berlin. And then here add a description. I can save the route. And now you will see that I have my route itself, which goes via those historical building. And now you can see that only the information which I clicked add to the route is indicated here and is added to my route and will be available here in my list of places of interest. So that is how that works. I have planned the route first and then manipulated the points of interest that were added to my route. Another way is to use that layer of places of interest directly in the route planner, as I have showed you, by planning via those points, adding them to your routes in the route planner and making a more specific route and content before you even start saving the routes. As I mentioned before, we have a database with a lot of points of interest, but you can add them yourself as well. To do this, you go via the main menu and then places of interest, add a place of interest. And then here you get to this screen and it's pretty easy. Let's say I have a B&B track and trace and I want to add it so it's a B&B. I add the type, I start typing, the system tries to match it. B&B. Now I can, let's say it's in Austria, I could zoom in all the way to Austria, or I can just here go to address and then, for example, indicate that it's in Megas, number 19 in Brass. which is in Austria. Start typing, and he would try to match. And then I can say, you can see that as soon as I start typing in an address, I have the possibility to mark it on the map. And then you will see here that it's indicated on the map on the correct location. I can still move this point. So if I zoom in a bit, I could say, oh no, this is not the location of my B&B. It's actually here. I can move it. And then here another option appears. I can now also fetch that address from the map. So that's two ways of doing that. You can click a point on the map and then fetch the address, or you can indicate the address and then mark it on a map. I can here give a description of my B&B, which is interesting, which kind of breakfast we serve, how many rooms we have. I can also add images. For example, here I have some options. For example, this could be my breakfast. This could be a room type. I can add several images at once. I can give them a name. This is room number 1. I need to confirm that I have the rights or the copyrights of this picture. So I'm correct that I want to add it to my information. Same thing here. This is our breakfast. So I can indicate it here, what it is, even give a link to our breakfast menu, for example, and then I can confirm. And as such, now I pinpointed my own points of interest. Now this is something practical, but it could also be a building or a place or information about a nature park. And now I can, even if I would have routes in the vicinity, I can add it to routes via this share button, add to a route. I can select a specific route of my own, or I can add it to all my routes that are located nearby. So that is how this works. And as I have shown before, if you save a route, you can also only add your own points of interest. So that is also interesting for like clubs. And if they have an event and they have control points where they want people to do something, they can indicate them along the traject as well. Pascal, to you for the next part.
Okay, and this item I'm going to show you, if you find a GPX or you record a GPX, you can upload it to the RouteYou system and also edit that route and make use of it. So how do you do that? Via the main item, you go plan a route. There's an option, upload a route. So I select upload a route, and I can give it a title. I'm just going to call it Demo Eurovelo 5. Because I got from a customer a GPX track of an Eurovelo 5, sorry about that. So I indicate it's a recreational cycling route. I'm gonna go to my hard disk because I already stored on my hard disk the route. So you see it's a GPX file. So I'm gonna select this one and I'm gonna open it. So the system automatically is gonna detect it's a GPX file. If there would be points of interest in the GPX file, you can select this one and then it will import the points of interest. I don't want it in this case. It will also recalculate on existing roads if possible. So your GPX track could be a bit noisy or not exactly matching the route. So if it's not deviating too much from the route, we will map it on the route, which gives you the advantages that you will have in your print, the road information and all the attributes. And in this case, I'm going to add additional places of interest automatically. So I can add a description. I'm not going to do too much work there and going to confirm. You will see that the GPX is uploaded immediately. And you will also see that after a few seconds, let me refresh, the points of interest, which I asked to be added, are also there. So now from the simple GPX file, I get in a few seconds a print option. Remember the guides we showed you in the beginning. So now I have a print option with points of interest available, but also a digital version I can use on my smartphone. And that's now being prepared and I can make use of that in a few seconds. So I upgraded the simple GPX file to a complete guided tour with all the information you've seen before, with all the information you would like to have along your route. There's still an option if you would like to adapt it a little bit to say, well, my bed and breakfast is a bit away from the track. I want to adapt it. There's an option with the pencil. Rein showed you already that you could invert the route, split the route, start the starting point. I'm just going to go straight and upload this route in the route planner. And this allows me to adapt, and I can drag and drop again the route to my liking, so I can adapt it a little bit to, for instance, my bed and breakfast I want to stay, and to adapt the complete route now to my version. I just save the route. You can actually save it as a new route to keep track of the old one. I'm just going to overwrite the old one, and now I have my adapted route. You see here the original path. And you will see now, here's now my new route. Again, I could do a points of interest push towards the route, and you keep on going. So that's the way to upload GPX files and to edit them and to upgrade them with the information and the functionality you have on RouteYou. Which brings us for the last minutes to one of the very advanced features, which is the reference routes.
Yes, I'm gonna share my screen again. Share. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. Okay, so the last part, we go back to the route planner. As I have showed you before, we have those extra layers here. And the last one we haven't come to yet is the reference routes. So I can indicate it here, and it's a bit of the same thing. Again, that's a bit of annoying bug with the map. So it indicates directly that I need to go to this part of the route planner. And here you can find now actually the RouteFinder. It's the same thing as I have presented you in the first part. Here I can filter down to specific routes. Let's say, for example, I want to go to Calp in Spain. I'm going to go over there. And I have a vacation there, and I'm going to take my bike, and I want to map out a race cycling route. But it's my first time, and I don't know the area. So I'm going to select here route type road bike routes here in the vicinity of Calp. And then you will see I can also indicate a length. For example, I say it must be at least 30 kilometers. For example, here you can play with it, but I'm going to keep it to a maximum now. I can enter a name of a specific route if I want to. You see the same filter options here are indicated as in the standard RouteFinder. Now I can indicate I want it to have at least 3 stars. And then here in the end, I have all the options that are available to me here in this area. What I can do now is I can click them. I can consult them and see if they are interesting to me. And if they are, I can say I want to indicate them on the map. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. And then maybe even say I only want 4 stars. Keep the selection even a bit smaller. And let's say I want to add several of those routes now here from different authors, for example, this one as well. I'm now making a quick selection, but you can do it a bit more specific by reading the information and watching the routes. You can see that they are colored now on the map. I can even change that color if I would want to. If I don't, I can keep the selection. So now I selected a route or 5 or 6 routes, and I can continue my planning. Let's say that I'm staying here in Calp. Now I can just go and start planning my route based on the information that other people have already inserted to our platform. So I'm actually basing my route on the expertise of somebody else. So I want to map out a road bike route. So this is race cycling, and here I can make a selection again, race cycling nicest, shortest, with a car, without a car. Let's say race cycling shortest, as I want to map via these routes that are indicated on the map. Then I don't want to deviate too far. In that case, shortest is the best option you want to go with. So let's say I'm staying here. I'm going directly to this route, and now I can just click those colored places, redo this and just click a bit further. I can now follow this yellow line all the way up. Let's say all the way up here, just keep on following it. I can use the orange line to go to the green line. Now continue via the green line. I'm doing this quickly. If you don't have a match, you can drag it to make it match. That's how that works. I can just keep on going all the way down, keep on going via the green trajectory, adjusting it here a bit more to make it match. Maybe go via the blue line if you would want to. It's a bit against the direction the original one was mapped out, but I guess you kind of get the feeling of how this works. I can now return to the starting point, and now I have completed the route in an area that I don't know based on the input of other people, so based on the expertise of other people. So I can now save the route, and I'm pretty sure that the paths I followed that are already used by others, that there's more probability that they are nice in difference with just mapping out the route without having any of that kind of information there. What else, or how else can you use it? Let me clear out this route, confirm, or just go back, plan a route, create a route. Another way of using these reference routes is, for example, I'm going to activate it again in this bug, but I'm going to say I want to show my own routes. I have a few jogging routes here in nearby. Let's say I'm used to mapping out. Let's zoom to my location. Voila, that's a lot easier. And here you can't see because they all start at the same point. I have a lot of routes. Again, I can click them one by one, or I can say select them all, select all my jogging routes. And what I can do now is I can go planning, and now I can specifically go via, I'm gonna say I wanna use, oh, the system is, I'm gonna keep it on the hiking nicest, maybe reload it, I think. Oh, there's a timeout, voila. I can say hiking nicest or shortest, or choose one of the other possibilities here, but I'm going to keep it like this. Now I can go and map out my route, but I can choose not to follow paths I have followed before. So now I can more specifically say I want to go jogging here via paths I haven't done before, because that gives me a route that is a bit different of the ones that I'm used to. So that's another possibility on how to use this, or use your own routes as a specific reference. It's also a way, if you have a specific route, to make like a variant of that specific route by just trying to trace it and then adjusting a specific part of it. So a lot of possibilities here, and a very nice feature to add routes that are already in the system, to visualize them in the planner and use them as a background for planning your own routes. And with that, I think we have covered the last part. Pascal, I don't know if there are specific questions. Or
no,
if...
There are no more specific questions. I thank you all for your attention, and hopefully you will enjoy the usage of RouteYou, and especially enjoy the routes you make and share with your friends and family. And we would like to, of course, invite you for one of our next webinars for more detailed information and extra functionality. Thank you very much. Thank you also very much, Rein, for your expertise and your explanation, and hope to see you all soon again. Bye.
Yes, bye.